Let's go from this to this as we start to reassemble our wrecked DRZ400. So if you want to learn how to put a tail tidy on, stick around. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. Today is the day we begin fixing our crash damaged DRZ400. More specifically, the tail area of this bike we're going to address today. We've got a Fender Eliminator kit to put on to replace our damaged stock OEM Fender. But before we get into that, please like, subscribe, comment, leave me a thumbs up. It sure would help a lot. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, let's start with a quick update on what's going on with the subframe before we get started. So let me show you what we got. So right here, we were pretty fortunate that this was bent, but not too badly. I was able to take a block of wood and a hammer and pound it upwards and get that fairly straight again. And these two tabs that hold your seat on right here, they were also bent that direction, and I was able to tap them, work them back into place. So pretty fortunate that it worked out that way, so we don't need to go buy a nice expensive subframe. Let's go ahead and get into installing our tail tidy. So basically, you want your bike to kind of look like this. You want to remove the seat and the tool bag and the rear fender and the side plastics and get it down to looking like this. You can refer to my last video if you kind of want to see how to get it down to this. Here's the 3 wires that we'll be using. This is the running light, brake light, and ground for the rear main tail light. These 2 right here, smaller ones, are the turn signals. This is, I believe, the right turn signal, and this is the left turn signal. So we'll be hooking directly back into these, but we got a little bit of figuring out to do with the wires. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here is the tail tidy. It's basically just an aluminum bracket. I'm able to put my stock OEM turn signals here back on this. Here is the tail light that came with it. That's the Savage brand. I use this on 2 other bikes, my bike and another DRZ400, and they work great. Very simple to install. So I think 25 bucks, that's how much they were. So if you're looking to get one, I know there's a lot more expensive ones, but this is a pretty good deal. These lights are pretty nice too. I know they're just, I guess they're just sort of a no brand one here. Some come with 3 wires, some come with 5 wires. So this is one of those that come with 5 wires. And of course, this is all it comes with. There's no instructions. So we're going to have to figure out which wires do what on this tail light. Being that there's more than 3 wires there, they probably have integrated turn signals, which we won't be using. So we'll just bypass those extra wires because we'll be using our OEM turn signals. So let me get set up and I'll show you how I'm going to figure out which wire goes where on this into the harness. All right. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is try to figure out which wires go where. So there's clues. I'm going to grab my old tail section, tail light, pigtail over here, and I'm going to look at this first. There's 3 wires in here. One of them's ground. I want to try to find out which one's ground first. So if I look at my old broken one here, I can see that this black wire with the small white stripe is grounded to the case. So I know that is the ground wire. So let's find the corresponding wire on the harness. So I'm looking for the black one with the small white stripe. Okay. This far one here is the black one with the small white stripes. So that's one down. So now we need to find the running light, and then the other one should be the brake light. Now how we're going to find which one is which is I'm going to turn the key on, and I'm going to use my meter here, and I'm going to see which one gives me 12 volts. Whichever one gives me 12 volts is the running light. So I'm going to turn the key on. There's other ways to do this. I guess you could use a test light. Since I know I've got the battery right there, I'm going to go ahead and ground myself to the battery. So I know it's either the middle one, or we'll start with that one. Let me do this. Ground, nothing. Oh. Nothing. Let me hit the brake lever. Okay, there's 12 volts. So the far one is the brake light. So that is the white one with the small black stripe. So the middle one is our running light. So now we figured out what the 3 wires are. And we have to now do the corresponding thing to the actual tail-tidy tail light. So what I've got the key, I don't need the key on for this. Let me turn the key off. Let me get this out of the bag. By the way, this tail, it is LED. All right, so as you can see, there are 5 wires, and I'm guessing 2 of them are going to be turn signals. So a little bit of a guessing game here at the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guess that the black one is ground for now. Okay, so I showed you that this had 5 wires. And what I realized is these wires are so teeny and so small, I went ahead and crimped some connectors on these wires. Yes, I've kind of already figured out which one goes where, but I want to show you how I did it. So the plan is I want to light this light up and see which one's lights in the brakes, see which one lights the running light. So how I'm going to do that is I have this battery tender cable right here, and it's hooked into the battery on the positive and negative post. So you have a male and female end. So I already know that the male end here is the negative, and the female end is the positive. So there's 12 volts going to this cable without the key on. So I'm going to stick these wires into this and see what happens. In the previous clip, I guessed that the black one was ground, and I was correct. So we're going to start with the, let's start with the red one. We're going to stick it down in there, and then I'm going to touch it to the negative pole, and yep, it lights up. The license plate lights on. So let's take the red one out, and I believe that one is the running light. That's always on. Let's see which one would be the brake light. Let's go ahead and stick the green one down in there. And let me touch that to ground. Okay, that's much brighter. That's much brighter. And so that is our brake light. So that's how I figured out which wire does what. So the black one is ground. The green one is the brake light. It's much brighter. And the running light is this red one. So I already clipped the other 2 wires, which is a yellow and blue, and I did test those, and yes, they are the right and left turn signal when you put 12 volts to them. So that's how I figured out what wire does what. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this into the, well, what I had to do. Let me backtrack here. As you can see, this wire is entirely way too short. If it goes back here, it's not going to make it up here to the plug. So I went ahead and cut the one off the OEM brake light, and I put an end on it so to extend it from back here to right there. And when I come back, we'll get this all hooked up. All right, so I went ahead and assembled the tail tidy bracket with the turn signals and the rear tail light. A couple things about this before we go ahead and mount it up. You're going to want to use some blue thread locker on these tail light posts and your turn signal posts. So I went ahead and put some blue thread locker on there just to make sure nothing comes loose. Also, as you can see, I put this piece of 3M rubber tape down here. It's not necessary, it's just something I do. It basically just a little thin piece of rubber that fits between the steel of the bracket and the back aluminum subframe where it's going to mount. So it's going to mount right here. You'll see these tabs coming off the back with these two holes right here. And so I'm using the original subframe, or the original bolts that came out of the rear tail fender that we're replacing, and they just slide right over the holes and screw right in like that. And of course you're going to want to thread lock these as well with some blue thread locker. So, and that's basically how you mount the bracket. Okay, so one of the last things you're going to have to do before buttoning up this tail tidy is we're going to have to cut these tabs off on the rear fender, these plastic tabs. As you can see, they kind of get in the way of the turn signal. So this tab was originally used for the rear tail section here that we're replacing. So those are no longer going to be needed. So we're going to go ahead and get some snips and snip one off, snip both these off. There's one on each side, and then the rear mudguard here will lay flat, and we'll be able to bolt up all our plastics and finish this up. You can cut this off with just about anything you want, some snips. I've got a Dremel here with the cutoff wheel on it, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And that's all there is to it. Now this will fit on there no problem. Let's go ahead and put that on. Okay, so the last step is to, once we have our tail fender reattached, is to feed our 3 wires through this hole in the tail fender. Let me go underneath the bike and hopefully you can see it. I'll show you how the wires are run. Let's go around to this side. So wires come across. They're tucked on the outside of the frame between the subframe and the plastic of the tail fender back here. They come out behind this bracket and they exit through that hole right there. So tail tidy is installed. All that's left to do is to plug these wires in and test it. All right, we've pretty much wrapped this project up. Tail tidy's installed. We've tucked all the wires, connected them, and stuffed them down in this cavity right here. So there's the finished product right there. Let me go ahead and turn the key on, make sure we should have a running light. And if I hit the brakes, I should have a brake light, which I do. Left turn signal, right turn signal. There. Everything works like it should. So I hope this video helped you guys. If you want to install a tail tidy, it's pretty simple. There's a little bit of figuring out how to do, which wire goes where. So the colors on my wires may be different from the colors that you get. So always test those wires to see which one goes where. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. If you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. That would be great. It would be very helpful. Stay tuned for part 3 as we continue on to the front of the bike. And we'll get all this stuff dealt with in part 3. So that's it for now. I'll see you in part 3. Bye.